my gosh, everybody. I just finished recording this interview that you're about to watch. And I said at the end, this one rises to the top of my top 5 podcast. Stay to the end because there is wisdom, there is magic, there is laughter, there are goosebumps right through the whole podcast. I know you're going to love this one. So buckle your seatbelt. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Messages of Hope. I'm so excited to share with my guest today. Cheryl Page and I have known each other for several years. You're going to hear why. But like me, she's still very left brain, but she has opened up that right brain and opened up a connection with the spirit world that she didn't even know existed. So stay tuned to the end because she is going to fill you with tips on how you too can learn to connect with spirit. Cheryl, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Suzanne. It's an honor to be here.
Well, why don't we start by telling how you and I met? I'll let you do that, okay?
Such a great story. In July of 2017, the love of my life, Scott, was hit by a truck and graduated to the next octave, meaning he was killed instantly. And at that point, Suzanne, it wasn't that I wasn't a believer. It's that it wasn't in my field of awareness to think about higher consciousness or does consciousness survive the death of the body. But somehow,
Tell people what you were doing at that time work-wise. I think you're still doing it.
Yes,
right?
That is correct. I'm an oncology clinical researcher and have been doing that for 22 years.
Okay, so a scientist, basically.
Correct. And this is language that you used that I have adopted because it so clearly spoke to me what you said about when your stepdaughter Susan passed. And in Messages of Hope, you said, forgive me if I get this wrong, you said, somehow I knew that she couldn't have been extinguished. And I knew Scott was an energetic force of nature. And I knew that it didn't make any sense that he could go from here to gone extinguished. That didn't make sense.
I have to ask you, Cheryl, you must still talk to him because the second you said that, I felt him step in and he said, I still am. Surely you still have an ongoing conversation with him, right?
100%.
Yeah, I didn't expect us to talk to him today, but of course he wouldn't not be here.
No, it's definitely the thing. So I didn't, at that point, July 7th, 2017, I didn't know anyone who knew anyone who knew anyone who knew a medium. It was, again, not a non-believer, but not in my sphere of awareness. But I began searching for, first of all, just send me a sign. And someone, you had been in Colorado and you had done a talk at the Spiritual Center or something up in Carbondale, but I didn't hear about it until after you left. But a girlfriend came and said, oh, she was amazing. You should have been there. It's like, I would have been there if you told me. Anyway, she gave me your book. And it was the thing that gave me hope. It's like being underwater and you've run out of oxygen, but somebody's buddy breathing with you. You gave me the buddy breathing. So full transparency here, Suzanne, is that you, as I read your book and I was watching videos and I'm really researching you, I thought, okay, this woman is left-brained enough for me. I didn't need a turban and a crystal ball. Now, I know that's the stereotype, but I didn't need abracadabra. I needed someone who had been where I stood, who had made the journey.
We have a lot of people new on this journey, and they may not even know what left brain means. Why don't you just quickly tell us?
Okay. So our brain is divided. If you think about the way a walnut looks, you have a left side and a right side, and there's a connection in the middle, but they can operate sort of individual from each other. It's more effective if we can find a way to merge them. But the stronger your left brain, the more you are analytic, mathematic, using analysis and sort of the materialistic world, we'll say.
Okay.
Versus the right brain is the more artistic, creative, intuitive, empathic side of us.
Okay.
So my scientist brain said, okay, this woman is credible and she has been where I stand. so I reached out through your website and signed up for a reading. And I got an email back that said, it's going to be about 2 years. And here's someone who could do a reading for you sooner, which was awesome. So I reached out to that woman, but I still had sent the application to your website. And 2 weeks later, my phone rings, number I didn't recognize, and something says, pick up the phone. And I pick up the phone and you say, this is Suzanne Giesemann. I've had a cancellation and you're supposed to have a reading.
Oh, wow. Good job.
I know, right? And it was so cool because I said yes. And you said, I haven't told you when. And I said, it doesn't matter. If you're moving me to the head of the line of 2 years worth of people, I will make it work. Whenever you're available, I'm available. So the next day, November 1st, 2017, you called me on Halloween. I thought that was kind of funny. And on November 1st, we had a reading. And and I think a lot of people are like this, Suzanne. I hedged my bets. I made up some phony email address so you wouldn't be able to Google me. And
yeah, I get it.
You didn't know who I was, where I was. And I don't know if you'll remember this, but it was so great because at the beginning you said, don't hold your name, don't hold your hope out for any names. I don't get names. I don't know why I haven't figured it out yet. And then straight out of the gate, remember, first you got my Uncle Jimmy and the snake, the rattlesnake.
That's right, that's you. Gosh, yeah.
Yep. So first you said,
I'm gonna put a link in the description to a video I made on what happened with her Uncle Jimmy that lets us know the soul doesn't suffer when we die. It's an incredible story, and it's because of what came up in that reading. I didn't make the connection till now. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So straight out of the gate, you said, well, I don't get names. And then you said, okay, I've got a man here. His name is James or Jimmy. And he's, he was in hospice and he's got cancer. And the amazing thing was my Uncle Jimmy was in that coma place that we sort of go to very often before we die. And I said, well, that's my Uncle Jimmy. At the end, we talked about this. And I said, but he hasn't passed yet. And you were surprised.
Well, we were talking to his soul and he had a very important message for everybody, which is why we made that video out of it.
Yeah, exactly. So then after we get done with Jimmy and this great story about the rattlesnake, then you don't know that I'm in Colorado or that's, any of that. And you tell me where he died, Scott, where he died, how he died, that he used to live in France, that he used to play baseball.
I remember he sang, "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
Yes.
Yeah, I heard it.
Yeah. And that's the song that we all sang at the end of his memorial service on the ball field.
Goosebumps. Yeah.
So cool. And you also said, which was amazing, you said, okay, he's showing me this baseball and he played semi-pro ball. And so it's one of his, real balls from the semi-pro league. You said, there's a ball in a cup on a shelf in his dad's house. And I'm thinking, I don't know about that. And so sure enough, I call his dad and he's 90 and he has no idea. But he says, let me go look. And sure enough, up on a shelf in his bedroom, in a cup that his son gave him, there's the ball.
Yay, Scott. Yay, spirit. Yay.
Oh. So we carry on. And then you say, Scott, the one who doesn't get names.
Really?
Yes. Oh. And I burst into tears. And you said to me, why are you crying? And I said, because that was his name. And you said, you don't need to cry. He's right here. Yeah. It was so freaking amazing. So we get to the end of the reading and I ask my burning question. The burning question was, okay, all your videos, your books say this is real, this is learnable. How do I learn? And you said the one word that I hoped you wouldn't say.
Oh, I know.
Meditation.
Meditate. Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't, again, all of it was new. I was a complete neophyte to all of it, but I'd tried for 40 years. When I was 12, my dad took us all to the Transcendental Meditation Center. You're going to learn to meditate. Here's a mantra. What the heck's a mantra? I don't know what a mantra is or what it's for.
Wow.
And you solved a problem that day for me, Suzanne, in that you said meditation. I said shoot, or a little bit more cursy than that. And you said, no. You said, think about it differently. You said, prayer is asking and thanking. Meditation is listening. Changed my life because you took away the lotus position and the Prius and the prayer flags and the vegan diet and Om. All I had to do, and you said, here's your instructions. You sit, have a notepad in your lap, and you listen for him.
Yeah. May I stop here, Cheryl?
Yes, please.
Point I've started teaching in all of my classes now. It's listen for him. Don't just listen to your breath. Everybody listen for your loved one. That singular focus is what makes the difference, because then you set aside everything that isn't your loved one.
Yes.
And you start to see what stands out from the noise.
Yes.
And other things will happen, right, Cheryl? We'll get into that. But that's the key right there. Yeah.
Yes. And what you said to me, and again, you gave me this bolus of information, this little packet of information. So sit, notepad in your lap, listen for him. And what you said, which was helpful, was over time, you will begin to know the difference between your thoughts and thoughts that are given to you. And that is exactly what happened. And because the left brain girl in me always rises to the top, I wanted to understand, and I started doing research. There's Harvard articles and Oxford articles about meditation and the physiologic changes within the body with meditation. And so I talked to a friend who's been meditating every single day for 50 years.
Wow. Wow.
So if anybody knows, has had some experiences, it would be my friend Tom. So I called Tom and I asked him, so what's the deal? And I said, have you ever, because my agenda is to hear from Scott.
Of course.
I said, so did you ever like connect with the unseen world? He goes, oh my God. He said, when I first got started, I didn't sign up for dead people to show up and appear before me. I wanted to sit in bliss beside higher consciousness and have no thoughts. Oh, that's not my agenda. So, but he shared with me some experiences of opening his eyes in meditation on a mountaintop in Japan, and there's a Native American man sitting solid as you and me right in front of him.
Wow.
And he was freaking out, like, no, I didn't sign up for that. So, but when we hung up the phone, I was, again, did I think it or was it given to me? But it's A plus B equals C. A is the non-variable, which is the activity of meditation.
I'm shaking my head because you are still so left brain, but you've.
I know. Yes.
Yes.
So
Okay.
A is the non-variable meditation. That's the activity. B is your intent. What's your intention? Tom's intention was to sit beside higher consciousness in bliss and not think thoughts. That wasn't my intention. My intention was to connect with Scott. So my B was very different from his. And that equals C, that drives the outcome. Your outcome will be driven by your B. And there's lots of different kinds of meditations. So that all of a sudden, between the gifts that you gave me and the A plus B equals C, it's like, okay, I needed a little bit of mechanism of action for how this works.
Meditation plus intention equals outcome.
Correct.
Right. Love
and
it.
that has served me well. And I always meditate with a notepad in my lap, regardless, even if I'm doing some other kind of mindfulness meditation or whatever. Mostly I don't do that. Mostly I listen for spirit. Now it's not just Scott. Scott's like the master of ceremonies and he sort of orchestrates things, but I always listen because I want the spiritual wisdom, and that's amazing.
So your left brain side may really like this little bit of research that I discovered just this last week, Cheryl. You know, you say you sit with a notepad in your lap, and we want to talk about your stack of journals, handwritten journals. And people often say to me, well, can I type what I get? And I just saw an article that they've reinstated teaching cursive writing in California in schools because research shows that writing by hand is a whole brain activity and gets you in the flow with the right brain and brings about all kinds of skills that we miss if we only type. So definitely handwrite what you get in meditation. How about that?
100%. That is absolutely N of one. That is absolutely my experience.
N of one. Oh my God. Lost me with that. It was just went into science talk there, but that's funny.
Just me alone, my experience. I'm the N of one is just me. That's my experience, is that how I say it to Suzanne is physical acts, writing, cue energy. And if I'm typing, it's not the same. There's no fluidity, so if you think about a river, the boat can go some places on the river, but the river can go more places. And writing puts you in the river.
In the flow. Yeah.
Correct.
Now, so far we have you who had a reading that changed your life. That's always the goal. And then you start meditating. So everybody stick with us, because Cheryl didn't just start meditating and get Scott. She's gone so much beyond that. But tell us what happened then with this A plus B and you got C. You got Scott, right?
Yes.
And
I got Scott, and you know how it is, Suzanne, when you lose someone you love, you become myopic in your focus initially. All I wanted was Scott. I got my Uncle Jimmy and I got Scott. I only wanted Scott. I love my Uncle Jimmy, but it's like, so we tend to be so hyper focused on the person that has just graduated. But as I began, what I found, and I wasn't expecting this, Suzanne, I was in so much pain. I was suffocating on my pain. And what I found, much to my surprise, is that when I was listening, I basically, instead of calling it meditation, it was my listening practice.
I love that. Yeah, good.
So when I was listening, which was about an hour in the morning, 35, 40, 50 minutes in the morning, and in the evening as well, I'd get the kids settled and then I would listen again. When I was listening, it was like taking an Advil or something, a spiritual Advil. The pain went away.
It does. Yeah. Yeah.
I had no idea. That was not a result that I anticipated.
Even physical pain. Yeah.
Correct. 100%. And so I was listening for Scott, but in hindsight, you open the door, they show up. My friend John shows up and total strangers showed up. And so I don't know if you want me to share the story about Christopher Tassel, the guy in Rhode Island.
See, everybody, Cheryl and I have been communicating since 27
years.
Because she gets the most amazing things. She has the most amazing stories and is now teaching. And she sends me, you got to read this article, and then I'll share something with her. And we also want to talk about Amber this hour show.
Yeah.
I forgot all about Christopher, so please share that great story.
So your guidance, because here I am, complete novice, but I'm listening and I'm following instructions. Write down, I'm a good student, write down what you hear. And so I'm writing things down. Again, your guidance of over time, you're going to be able to tell the difference between your thoughts and thoughts that are given to you. And that was as a side, the way that I understand it now, which you might be able to further elaborate on, is I can think a thought, but non-local points of consciousness, our loved ones in spirit, can also push thoughts into our conscious awareness.
Absolutely.
So that was new information for me. So I'm listening, I'm writing things down. Half of it, I don't have any idea. Why did I write down an avocado or the Eye of Horus? I have no idea. So because I'm a researcher and I didn't know what to do with what I was writing down, I would just go and look up the spiritual meaning.
That's it. Oh, you and I, some being comes to you, you hear the name, you don't know who it is. What do? When you come out of meditation, you Google them.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was doing a lot of researching, And so I had the reading with you on November 1st. I started listening on November 7th, 2017. And every day, 2 hours a day, I was listening. And all of a sudden, and you were so kind and so patient with me, I was twitching and vibrating and my temperature's going up. And at some point, I'm freaking out a little bit because I wasn't anticipating. Now I understand that it's the upregulation of my central nervous system through the meditative process. At the time, I didn't know that. And I asked you at one point, and Obi-Wan, I sent an email to Obi-Wan and said, okay, I'm twitching and I'm vibrating and my temperature goes up. And is this normal? And what you said was, I don't know if it's normal for everyone. It was normal for me. And you said, enjoy it while it lasts because it won't last. As we upregulate, my addition to that is as I upregulate my central nervous system, it's a recalibration and I can accommodate more energy flowing through.
That's right.
So every day, an hour in the morning, an hour at night, I'm listening. And when I'm listening, I'm not in pain. I get from November 7th. And in 2017, Christmas was a Monday. This was the Wednesday before Christmas. And I'm listening. It's like 10 o'clock at night. And I hear clear as day, Christopher Tassel, 1954 airplane. And I'm a good student. I don't think about it. I open my eyes. I write it down. I close my eyes. I finish. And then I'm looking at the page and I'm thinking, what the heck is that? And so I Google this guy, 1954 airplane. And up pops the obituary of a guy who died in 2014 in Rhode Island. I was in Colorado. And okay, I said, all right. And he was born in 1954, but what about the airplane? So
54. I mean, right away, we've got a piece of the puzzle. It just.
Exactly. And you look how they streamlined it. So they gave me his name. They give me a year of birth. So I know I can identify, yes, it's him. But I'm thinking, okay, what about the airplane?
And our listeners want to know, who is they?
Well, to me, it was Scott and my friend John.
Okay.
Are helping me. And okay. I'll elaborate on why I have come to understand this is what happens. So I go back to Google, and I'm never Googling without asking. Guide me to the message you want me to find. Beautiful. I make a request.
Yeah.
And so I go one more down in Google, and there's a guy, another Christopher Tassel, who is a jet airline pilot. So wait a minute. And I go back and I realize from the obituary that that's the son of the 1954 guy. So I tie it together. And so I'm sitting there in my room by myself at 10 o'clock at night. And it's not like they're in my ceiling, but I'm sort of looking at the ceiling. And I said, okay, and what does this have to do with anything? And
so,
I hear, yeah.
You've gotten this. Something clearly has meaning. You've gone back into meditation and you're re-engaging. So everybody, you can
correct. Yes. But the truth of the matter is, Suzanne, at this point, and I mean, I know it sounds unlikely because it was so early in my journey, but I didn't really have to go anywhere. I just basically was looking at my ceiling. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like I dropped back down in. It was like I knew they were there. And I'm looking at the ceiling, and I know, without going too far into the weeds, I already knew that Scott and John were there from my meditation. And now I got this other guy in my ceiling. And I said, what am I supposed to do with this? And Christopher Tassel, and again, I'm hearing this like a telephone call. And he says, it's Christmas. You got to call my family. You got to tell them that I love them and I'm still right here. And your book, Still Right Here, had just come out and it was on the bed in front of me. And you know how it is, Suzanne, where it's almost, I don't know that this is true, but sometimes when something like this is happening, you don't know it, but it's almost like you've entered an altered state enough to not freak out.
Oh, of course. I mean, that's what's happening. It is an altered state. And in that state, you just know this is real. Follow this.
Yeah. So I knew Scott well enough in life. Scott was the guy who could always hook you up with somebody else. He was a great networker. So I see this image in my mind's eye of Scott and John and Christopher Tasca at some heavenly sports bar. And Chris is bemoaning the fact that he needs to get a message to his family. And Scott's like, oh, I can hook you up. That
Yeah,
was the overwhelming sense.
my life, and she's like a terrier, man. You give her a clue and she's not going to
Like
let
a bone. Yes. So I said, you know what? I'm not calling your family. They're going to think I'm crazy. They're going to think I want something. No. And I said, and then I put the caveat in, which is, okay, if you guys want me to do this, I'm going to bed. I got to work in the morning. You figure it out. If you want me to do this, you're going to have to give me an out of the ballpark sign that I'm supposed to do this. Otherwise, not doing it. Good night. So I go to bed, I get up, I do my listening practice, and there's Larry and Curly and Mo in my ceiling.
Scott, John, and Christopher.
Exactly. And
Okay.
there's this almost like the way somebody could push on you, just in a gentle, like, you gotta call my family, you gotta call my family, you gotta call my family. It's Christmas. And I still get goosebumps. And so the important backstory to what happened next is that when I closed my eyes at that time and I saw Scott, it was swirls of blue like a torus, but it was blue. And John was purple. And I think that they did that so that I could delineate, because it mattered to me to be able to delineate. And now Christopher Christopher Tassel is there and he's yellow. And so I said, okay, here's the deal. I'm not a crazy person, and your family is very sensitive, and I don't want to hurt them at Christmas time. So I pick up your book, still right here. I haven't read it. It had just come from Amazon. It was sitting on the bed. And I pick up the book and I said, okay, here's the deal. I'm looking at the ceiling. I'm going to open this book to a random page. And whatever, no scanning the page for meaning, whatever my eyes land on has to be a sign, or I'm not doing it. Deal? So I close my eyes. My process, I just sort of fill myself up with love, energy, and I, let this be what it's supposed to be, right? So I fan the pages and I look down, I open my eyes, and my eyes land on the phrase Jet Blue Airlines. Jet airline pilot son, Scott's blue, and Christopher, so.
Okay, you leave me without words. I mean, I was with you in, back and forth communicating as this was unfolding, but I forgot all of this. And I also, I'm glad you brought up this story, because this is what has proved so evidential for you. This is your way Spirit works through you, opening a journal or opening this book. You let Spirit snag you with what book to open, what journal to open, and you ask for the right phrase. And it is phenomenal the way Spirit works with you in that method. But that's JetBlue Airlines. Wow.
So I look at the ceiling and I said, I guess I'm calling your family. So now I'm a little panicked. I've already been on the private charter airline website of the Sun, just sort of looking to see what I'm dealing with. And so I thought, okay, I'll send him an email. I'll take the cheater's way out. I'll send him an email. So I go on the website. It's basically sales at the name of the company. And I thought, I'm not going to just send a random email to a random mailbox. So I thought, fine. I point to the ceiling and I said, fine, I'll call. So I call the phone number and I get an automated voice. Thank you so much for calling Jet Charters. For sales, press 1. For repairs, press 2. For Christopher Tassel, press 3. So I press 3 thinking, cool, I'll leave him a voicemail. And he answers the phone.
Oh, I remember. That's right.
So now I'm pointing at the ceiling like, you better freaking help me. So I put on my clinical researcher least crazy voice. And I said, hello, my name is Cheryl. I'm calling from a cancer center in Colorado. And I knew that his dad died of cancer. And I'm asking them, like, help me out here. And I said, I wanted to send you an email address, but your personal email isn't on your website. And I promise I'm not a crazy person. And he laughs. And he says, of course. And he gives me the email address. And I'm like, thank you. And I'm ready to hang up. And he says, Do you mind if I ask what it's in regards to? So I only fibbed a little bit to keep it on an even keel. I said, well, it has to do with your father. And I think there's a possibility we might have a friend in common. Because who knows? Maybe maybe he knew Scott or John. I don't know.
Well, they
So
crossed the veil, and that's no lie.
exactly. So I said, but I'd feel better if I could just send you an email. You don't have to get back to me. It's just I'm compelled to share the information. Now, as women, we would be going, what? Tell me, tell me, tell me. The guy's like, okay, cool. I'll look forward to reading it, and he hangs up the phone. So I typed this whole email, and Scott died, and mediumship, and reading with you, and learning to listen, and Christopher Tassel, 1954 airplane. And I include a picture of Scott and myself just to sort of legitimize the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I hit send. I point at the ceiling. There, I did it. I'm out of here. And I had to go to work. So 2 hours later, I'm at work. The phone rings. And it's the sister of the guy I talked to, the daughter of the guy in my ceiling.
Yeah, goosebumps again.
And she's crying.
I remember now.
And so she says, oh, Cheryl, my whole family has not been able to stop crying since we got your email. Every Christmas since my dad passed, he finds an extraordinary way to let us know that he's still right here. And this year, you're the messenger.
Oh my gosh.
And amazingly, my friend John is John Denver. John was the gift the year before.
Now, you actually knew John Denver. I mean,
yes, I worked with him back in the day. But John Denver was the extraordinary gift the Christmas before.
The web.
Sunshine on my shoulders.
He's helping. You and I know how this works. Across the veil, Scott and John meet up because you are the connector point between them.
Correct.
Tangled. And then this Christopher guy somehow gets linked up with them, and they say, we'll help you out here, buddy.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So to me, it was the opening door, Suzanne, of understanding that more is possible, and could I contribute to someone's healing? In that family's case, I've flown to Rhode Island. I've stayed with them. We're dear friends. I talk to them all the time.
Wow.
And a relationship was born and healing occurred. And who am I? I'm nobody. As far as I would only been meditating for 6 weeks.
I know everybody's going to be so envious, but we just trust spirit, trust the process. You were right.
Yes. So
but I know that spirit chose you also because you are this research, and you are learning things that you are sharing with the world. You've shared with me things that have opened up me to different avenues. You and I both know you can go down so many rabbit holes, and we have, right? But there are certain parts of the scientific aspects of this and the vibrational aspects of connecting across the veil that you and I just love to dive in, and you take it to the nth degree that is.
Yeah.
Well, so tell us where you went from there. You still practice every day, and I'll jump ahead and tell everybody that Cheryl has these decks of cards with famous people on them, and tell us what you do with them, Cheryl.
Well, so the fast forward, the condensed version is I continued. The event with Christopher opened me to another possibility. So I started very tentatively asking friends, and you know how it was. It was sort of weird. I was a chicken, and I wasn't willing to sit with somebody and do a reading. So I said, can you just give me your loved one's name? I'll go into meditation. I'll ask for some information. And that I did for a long time because I was just so nervous. I don't want to cause pain. And I feel like, like when Obi-Wan put the mask over Luke's eyes, and like you're supposed to waggle around the lightsaber, but you can't see. I still felt like the mask was over my eyes. I was still finding my way as
But I remember
a Jedi.
You came to my mediumship class that I gave in Denver. You dived in as a student, and then developed your own way, which I love. You're one of the people that taught me there are many ways to get to the same place.
Yeah. And that spirit, if we mean really, as a single mom working full time, I had to take an autodidactic approach. I didn't have the time and the money to travel all over the world and learn these things. So my classroom ended up being listening practice. And so I got very good at listening. I ultimately started doing readings. Go ahead.
Let me just break in there and say that is the best classroom in the world, because we're tapping in beyond the internet. We're tapping in beyond this world. We're tapping into all consciousness. And with that intention, A plus B, if your intention is to tap into wisdom, be specific about the wisdom, and C, you're going to learn from the masters.
Correct. And that you were the first person to say to me, most everything, but you were the first person to say to me that if I could connect with Scott or my mother or your mother or Amber, I should be able to, then we can extrapolate from that I could connect with any point of consciousness. And so Wolf, God bless him, was early on someone who helped me because I didn't know who. Okay, let me try somebody else. And Wolf was amazing. Go
That
ahead.
would be the young man named Wolf, who I wrote about in my book, Wolf's Message, and he's a great communicator. So you started communicating with him and giving messages to his stepmother and father, Mike and Beth.
Correct. Yep. And so he was another. I needed, how it is early on, especially even now, I want the wisdom more than I want the evidence, but it's lovely when we get the evidence because we're still learning, and it's a gift.
It's awesome, and we love that. All motivates us to keep going.
Yes. So at some point, there was some, what I would call crabby medium somewhere, who said, in contradiction to what you had said to me, you can't just willy-nilly reach out to Albert Einstein or Princess Diana. And even if you could, there wouldn't be evidence. And I thought, well, that's a pretty small box. What if there could be? And so my approach was, if I don't have to get on CNN and prove it to anybody, back to that N of one, just me, by myself in my little chair, I could practice. So I would reach out, I would pick a point of consciousness, John F. Kennedy or Nikola Tesla or Amelia Earhart, whoever it was, and I would ask, my phrase is always, do you have a gift of wisdom for me? And I write down what I get, because at this point I'm a good listener. So I'm more trusting of the information. And it's important to say that with any medium, the information comes through the filter of us. So it's not exactly as obscure as smoke signals, but sometimes it's not just I got them on the phone and it's crystal clear. But I trust the information, especially when I don't have to prove it to anybody else. And then after the wisdom, I will ask, do you have some evidence for me, because I'm still learning and it's really helpful to me? And then invariably it's go look it up. And it's so beautiful and so surprising.
Get information and go look it up. But I want to know what it felt like, because to me it's so important to know that this is not just data you're picking from the sea of consciousness, that you are actively communicating, interacting, engaging points of consciousness, yes, but people, real
yes
people. So what is that like?
So it's sort of like the way that Christopher was in my ceiling. It was distinct. I know it's kind of like, at some point I interacted with your mom after she passed, or with Wolf. I don't know, you probably have better language than me for this, but I have their energetic signature. So if your mom stops by, I know what she feels like, which is distinct from Wolf, from Scott, from Nikola Tesla, because the energetic signature.
Oh, here's the language. You feel their presence.
Yes, and it's distinct. Your mom feels I have a very clear signature stamped on my heart, what your mom feels like. And what Wolf feels like, and so it's so funny, because I remember in the reading that you did with me and Scott, and It was a little bit like you were speaking in tongues or something, like some other language that I didn't understand. But what you said to me that day, and now once it happened to me, I got it. I was so excited. What you said was, he's making me feel what it felt like to love you, or what it feels like to love you.
Ooh, my heart. Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought, what is that? Like, how does that even work? And so I think that the reason I share that is because what you just asked, it's not just, I'm pulling from some Akashic library somewhere. There is personality and there is presence, and they give me the feeling of what they feel like, or what, if I'm doing a reading, what it feels like to love that person, or the apology that the mother wants to extend to her daughter. I feel it as though it's my apology.
But that's because, and you know this, you were in my classes, your energy field blends and merges with their energy field. You become one as you're communicating. You are them. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yet you still aware of yourself being you. So it's a blending.
Yeah. So in the short, the thing about the cards, and I think it's important for people to so I just basically took the decks and I combined them into one. So 2 decks into one, because I want all the names. And so how these were born was, I was in meditation and I'm doing my little experiment with, could I reach out to somebody? And sometimes I reach out and make a request. Sometimes they just show up. The door's open. My declaration, Suzanne, is anyone who serves the light is welcome here.
Yeah.
That's the full extent.
Yeah. It's not about your ego. It's not about showing off. It's what can you show me? How can I learn? How can we all grow from this?
Yes. And if I could never share it with anyone, I'm still so enriched by this experience. The person that I was on July 7th, 2017 is not the person that I am now. The part of me that needed to die also died that day in some capacity. And yet Scott was the midwife to birth me into another possibility. And so one day there's Mr. Kennedy. And, Suzanne, there's a part of me that always sort of has pause, right? Because you don't want to seem like a crazy person or whatever. And at some point he was showing up regularly, and he finally said, because I always put that caveat, I know it makes me sound crazy. And what he said to me in a sort of a scolding, loving, grandfatherly kind of a way, he said, stop apologizing for knowing me.
Oh, wow.
Like, okay. So I document everything. So I have 19 journals now filled from November 2017 to today. And what Mr. Kennedy stepped in and said was, we're here, we want to help, and no one is asking. And you need to make people know. You need to make people aware.
And her unemployed angels from my podcast with Lorna Burns. She said there are, countless angels who are unemployed because nobody's asking for their help. And you just nailed it. And another whole dimension, the astral realm. People who were experts in certain things now have the bigger picture. Why aren't we calling on them?
Yes. And so he said on that day, and it was so cool, he said, you need to design an oracle card deck. I'm thinking, I don't know how to create an oracle card deck. What are you freaking talking about? I have a day job. I got kids. No, I don't know how to do that. Thanks for stopping by. Kind of a little bit, like I didn't know what to do with it. And yet I also know to hold space for a possibility that I can't see. So that same night, after my meditation, I'm a little stirred up and I can't really sleep. So I'm just sort of scrolling through Facebook on my phone. And up pops this ad, some woman in New Zealand. Would you like to know how to make an oracle card deck?
Of course it did.
$39 later, I learned how to make an oracle card deck. And the instruction really, I want to give credit where credit is due. This idea and the construct of what they look like. So here's a card, and each card is a professor. So that was because if you think about it, and I know that this is sort of the air you breathe, Suzanne. If I buy, there's many, 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 many hundreds or thousands of oracle card decks out there. And the way he gave it to me as a knowing is all those other oracle card decks have a little book. You draw the card, and the little book tells you what to think about the card. And there's a distinction between the early 1900s, prior to the sort of formalized Western education, where, okay, little Suzanne, little Cheryl, here's the book. The answers are in the book. This is what we want you to think, as opposed to teaching you how to think.
I love that you're getting at this, because I don't look at those books. Let spirit tell you. That's the point of using the cards.
Yes. Yeah. So each card is a professor. Like this was the other one that came up today. I know he's a friend of yours.
Yeah, Wayne Dyer.
Yep. And so each card is a professor, and when I draw the card, I ask them to step in and spend the day with me. And what I say is, show me your presence in wondrous ways.
Cool. Yeah.
And it's amazing, amazing what has happened. And let me just share one story with Mr. Kennedy.
Share a story. We love the stories, and this story always has to have evidence, things that we
yes
are no other explanation moments. NOE.
Yes. So I was with a friend, and we were just going to practice. I said, so pick somebody. She doesn't know that I'm having these chats with Mr. Kennedy. And I said, so pick someone that you'd like to hear from, if you could pick a historical figure. And the reason, just to emphasize the point, the reason I choose people of notoriety is I can't probably Google Suzanne's great-grandfather.
Right.
But if there's some data on the internet, then they can use that as a tool to give me evidence. So she picks John F. Kennedy. And so my instruction is, you energetically, if you could give him an embrace, sort of raise your energy and just feel the joy of what it would be like to meet him. And I'll ask him for a gift, a something. And my promise to him and to you is I won't edit. And then his wisdom will be tied to the gift. So, and there's something going on in her life that I wasn't aware of. And so I close my eyes, I raise my energy, I hold out my hand, I ask for the gift, and he sticks in my hand a can of Campbell's tomato soup. And I'm thinking, oh man, I'm totally making this up.
Yep.
And I hear him say, you promised. I said, okay. I said, okay, Sherry, he's giving you a can of Campbell's tomato soup. And then I go back and ask for the wisdom. And this thing I wasn't aware of in her life, he says it doesn't start as a can of soup. It starts as a minuscule little seed that you put in the ground, you cover it up and you water it and you watch it for days and nothing is happening, or so it seems. And you keep watering and you keep trusting the process and nothing is happening. And at some point, a little green shoot breaks the surface, but it's not tomato soup yet. You got to keep watering it and keep trusting and protect it from pests. And it grows into a plant and there's no fruit, and then there's fruit, and then the fruit ripens. He said, now you got a ripe tomato, it's still not soup. You got to go into the kitchen and there's more work to do. And you puree and spices, and now you have soup. And it was so meaningful to her because of something she was being very impatient about in her life at that time. And so we get to the end of the exercise, and I say to him, do you have some evidence for us? Because we're learning and that would be helpful. And he says, you know how it is. They give you the knowing. He says, look it up. I don't know what I'm going to find. So I go to Google, guide me to the message you want me to find. Always have the ask. John F. Kennedy, tomato soup. Seems pretty unlikely.
Yeah.
And so up pops this article, top search result. Baltimore Sun, the favorite foods of the 45 presidents. John F. Kennedy's favorite food was tomato soup with sour cream.
No. Way to go, President Kennedy. Yeah, I love it. And what you described there of the seed and not seeing any results and the little sprout comes up, that's our path on this journey of learning to connect with consciousness.
Yes.
So many of my students get frustrated. They say nothing's happening. but you're planting that seed and you've got to nurture it and do the work.
Yes.
And this is a beautiful method. Listen,
Yeah.
listen, trust, write it down by hand, ask for evidence.
Well, and it's important, like what you just said, Suzanne, that the reason I do the, close my eyes, hold out my hand, put something in my hand, is I don't have to, I take away some of the confusion. I'm just asking for one thing.
Yeah.
I'm not out on the infinite ball field waiting for something to cross my field of awareness. I'm creating a landing pad.
Mm-hmm.
And all they have to do is put something there. And if I can trust the first thing that comes up, I can go with, and I don't have to figure it out. It's like I did have okay, I'm making this up, tomato soup. But if I can trust the process myself, I trust that he will turn this into some wisdom and some education for us. And
this is such a key point. Look, everybody, how she did that. She didn't say, well, what could tomato soup, what wisdom could come from that? She knows she's connecting with a sentient point of consciousness, John F. Kennedy, who's passed. And she asks him for the wisdom and does what? Listens, trusts, writes it down. And it turns out to be just what that woman needed to hear.
And we're creating this back and forth that way. And I don't know about you, Suzanne, but I've had this recent understanding of a conundrum. And I'll probably say this badly, but you'll get my point. So if I use Scott as the example, and my Catholic upbringing has him on a cloud somewhere with a harp and a halo and streets paved with gold, and then I get the butterfly or the dragonfly or the whatever, it's this weird disjointed thing where he's far away and he's sending me something, as opposed to, like you say, there is no place but here. It's all here. And
in conscious.
Exactly. Yeah. So can I give you one more example, one more story? I know we're getting close to time.
We're not going to run out of time because we can keep going, because we have to tell the Amber story after this.
Oh, good. Okay. So I just want to share one more Mr. Kennedy story. I'm looking at my other maybe Amelia Earhart. That's a good one. So I do the exercise with a friend and she wants to hear from Amelia Earhart. And so she wraps her in the energetic embrace and I ask for the gift and she puts in my hand what looks like a pocket watch, because it's got the little opener thing, like how the old-timey pocket watches had a cover on it to protect the glass. But she said, I'm giving you my wristwatch. But it looked like a pocket watch. And so I was confused.
Right.
Huh?
Amelia Earhart said this.
Correct. But I didn't, again, it's that weird thing of, I don't know what I'm seeing, because she says wristwatch, but she's showing me, I've never seen a wristwatch with a little covery thing on it.
Me neither. Yeah.
And so then she's giving her a gift of wisdom about time and whatever the gift of wisdom was. But the interesting thing was, we get to the end and we ask for the evidence and she says, look it up, and I guide me to the message you want me to find. I always have an ask. And I come up with an image of Amelia Earhart's watch. And it's a watch with like a regular analog face, like we would expect from the 1940s or whatever. But if you take it off, the back has one of those covers on it because there's a message from the person who gave it to her and they didn't want her skin to rub it off. So it was closed. They had one of those little opener things. Historically, that watch exists, but the opening thing is on the back, not the front.
Unbelievable, but totally believable.
Yes.
Good job. So you're very clairaudient, very clairvoyant. You see images, you hear them, you clairsentient, you feel the present, claircognizant, you just know these things. And all that opened up from somebody very left brain who was willing to just listen with the goal of connecting with the love of your life, Scott, and you got so much more. Yeah. This is available to all of us.
Yeah, if I can do it, anybody can do it. That's my declaration.
Yeah. Outstanding. So let's tell the Amber story. I know that I went to speak at a conference in 2019 at a hotel in Arizona, and somebody gave me a delivery of my mail because I was traveling around, and it had a card in there from you. So here I am thinking of you. I don't want to tell the whole story, but I will just tell you that I woke up in the morning of the third day of the conference, and there I had a drop-in, a visit from a daughter in spirit named Amber of our friend Lisa. And she had a message for her mom. She wanted me to do a reading for her mom. So I needed to contact her mom, but I couldn't reach her. I didn't have contact info, but I knew that you had a connection with Amber. So I reached out to you. Do you remember what was going on that morning?
Yes, but even more significantly is how you and I were connected with Lisa and Lou and Amber is because on the anniversary of Scott's passing, I said, how about if you send me a message that Suzanne reaches out to me on your graduation day?
Scott.
And that there was nothing. The Saturday came and went, but you called me on a Monday and you wanted somebody else's phone number. And I said, you said, how you doing? And I said, well, I'm okay. I made it through the first year. And you go, oh, wait. And I hear you flipping through your notebook and you go, just a minute. And you go, Saturday, Lisa, frogs. And then you tell me this whole story about you're doing this reading with their daughter, Amber, and all these frogs come hopping through the middle of their reading. So it's spirit already orchestrating. Go ahead. It was amazing.
We're probably sounding like a bunch of crazy women. What Cheryl's saying is that on the 1-year anniversary of Scott's passing, she reached out to him telepathically and said, send me a message through Suzanne, right?
Correct.
I gave a reading on Saturday. I didn't know she asked for this. And in the middle of the reading, all these frogs are going through my mind's eye. I didn't know what that was. And my client, Lisa, and her husband, Lou, had no idea why the frogs were showing up. And I said, well, your daughter, Amber, is here. She's showing me these frogs. Just remember it came up. So I happened to call Cheryl on Monday, and I suddenly remembered her boyfriend, Scott's nickname was Froggy, and he was all about frogs. And I said, he jumped in on that reading on Saturday, which turned out to be his angel date. He got the message through to you after all, but I didn't realize it was him because I was so focused on Amber. So you reached out and connected with Amber.
No, because you are so professional and you understand about confidentiality. Okay. You didn't tell them who I was, and you didn't tell me who they were. So fast forward to 6 months later or something, and Wendy Zamet is interviewing me on her global gathering, and I talk about blah, 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 Froggy, and Lisa is watching the interview, and she's going, oh, Froggy, I'll bet that's her. And so she goes on Facebook, and she finds me.
Okay, because I had called Lisa back. I said, don't worry about the frog thing in your reading. I figured it out. It has to do with a friend of mine. Her boyfriend across the veil snuck into your reading to get a sign through to her. His name was Froggy. You two both came together that way. I got the goosebumps. That was their daughter, Amber, and Scott at work to connect the two of you.
Yes, and then 6 or 8 months later in that September, I get my memory of it, and correct me if your memory is different. You were in Arizona 1 hour before Colorado time at that point. I was in Colorado. We both at almost the exact same time got a message from Amber.
Yeah. So Amber drops in on me in the hotel room, says, I need you to do a reading for my mom. But I didn't have contact info for Lisa.
So you emailed me.
You would have contact for Lisa because you two are now chatting back and forth months later. So I texted you. I said, Amber is here. I need to contact her mother. And you wrote back and said, no, Amber's here talking to me right now.
Yes.
I said, what? So everybody, this young woman in spirit, Amber, dropped in on both of us at the same time. I teach the awakened way. And principle number 2 is you are part of one big web connecting all that is. And this web with Scott across the veil and Amber across the veil and Lisa's, it was crazy. So didn't you reach up for evidence at that moment and said, which of these 10 journals on the shelf at the time will have a message that I can trust this? You reached out to journal number 7, opened it randomly. It was random in your mind, but
Totally,
not.
yeah.
You remember what you opened to?
Yes, it was to it was to the day where I connected with Lisa.
It was. Yeah. It right there was Suzanne Giesemann gave a reading to this young woman, Amber's mother, Lisa. Right there on the one page you opened up to when you're looking for validation that this is really Amber talking to both of us at once.
And it was 17 journals at that point, probably.
Yeah. It got even crazier from there, and I hope we haven't lost all of you. When you connect the dots, it's absolutely stunning how spirit will bend over backwards to let us know that they're still part of our lives, but we have to do the work. And like you said multiple times here, Cheryl, I love it. Make the ask, or however you put it.
Correct. Because here's the thing, in my business, in clinical research, when we're going to invite someone to be in a clinical trial, we have to get informed consent. The informed consent was born out of the atrocities that happened in World War II with the Nazis. We have to ask someone for consent before we do something. And in my understanding from spirit is they can only intervene or intercede on our behalf past us to a certain point if we don't ask. And I drew a card today, and I don't know if you're familiar with Gita Malls, but I asked for a card for you. So Gita Malls.
Yeah, you held it up and I've never heard of her.
So I think that you and she have a beautiful thing in common because you channel Sanaya, collective consciousness. And this book called Talking with Angels, it occurred between an 18-month period between 1943 and 1944 in Hungary as the Nazis are marching towards Hungary. And these 4 young people are all late 20s, early 30s, all on a spiritual path, 3 women, 1 man, 1 non-Jew, 3 Jews. And one afternoon, one of the Jewish young women drops into a trance and starts channeling 4 angels.
Huh.
And Gita was the transcriber of these channeled sessions as the world is exploding around them. And it was a gift from spirit, this book. How it came to me was incredible, but it really is. I have what I call the top 5 desert island books. If I had to be sent to a desert island for the rest of my life and I could only bring 5 books, this is one of them.
Wow. Wow.
And
Wow.
so the message in regards to asking from the angels, because I made the request. Here's the book. You can see all my little caddies.
Oh gosh. That's another point we have in common, but you might have just outdone me there, Cheryl.
So I asked the angels for a message today, and the message that came is, take care, you will shine, but only if you ask.
Oh.
Asking is necessary. Never weary of asking again and again. You may call on us, you may ask us. Without your asking, we cannot give. And then get this part. Those who ask are more dear to the divine than those who know. So
That's beautiful.
we got to ask.
And what they've explained to me is because in asking, we are showing our trust that we are not alone, that there are helpers. We're acknowledging, I know you're here, and I would love to work with you and accept your help.
And that's the key part, is we're giving our consent. Consent is not implied. And I don't know if this is your experience, Suzanne, but I have people say to me all the time, well, I used to get signs and now I don't get signs. And the first thing I say is, do you still ask? And invariably the answer is no.
This is so helpful. You're just going to open up so many people with your wisdom today, Cheryl. I'm glad we opened up to your book today. How do people get your cards?
They're available on my website, which is quantumalchemy.world.
See, we're going to have you back. Absolutely. I would love to. Will you come back again?
Absolutely. 100%. I'm at your service, friend.
Because we want to talk about what you've learned about quantum physics as it relates to spirituality. And your goal is the same as mine, to share that wisdom in a way that everybody can understand it, because we need to make use of this wisdom for sure.
You bet. Yeah. And thank you for all of the gifts that you gave me. I know you're so humble and you will never toot your own horn, but I am on this journey because of spirit and because of your willingness to be a way shower.
You've taught me a lot, Cheryl. That's minimizing what you've taught me. Even personal lessons, you've opened me and helped me and changed me, and I bow to you truly. But thank you for helping so many here today. I mean it. It's this goes right up there with some of my favorite shows now. Yay. If I take 5 podcasts under this, this will be
awesome.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
Be sure to check out Cheryl's website, do her practices, they work, and just enjoy every bit of the journey. We'll see you back here next week for another episode. Hi, everybody. You know, one of the most common comments I get from people when we talk about the spirit world is, I'm not coming back. Well, I have news for you. We come back again and again for the joy of it, for the soul. If you haven't had enough joy in your life, I invite you to join me on my upcoming Awakened Way Mediterranean Odyssey. We're going to be diving into the Awakened Way concepts that show how you can up-level yourself from the restricted sense of self to the expanded point of view of you as an eternal soul. We're going to have extended time together with me and with the collective consciousness known as Sanaya. I'll be doing guided meditations that are channeled, and Sanaya will be conversing with all of you. I can't wait to hear what they have to say. I can't wait for you to feel their energy. Yes, we're going to have some deep conversations about those things that keep us in only human mode, but I'm going to show you you are far more than only human. You're going to have a chance to connect with your own higher self and with your loved ones who have crossed the veil, not to mention your guides and even higher beings. But don't worry, we won't take ourselves too seriously.
Who is that guy?
In addition to our time together during the workshop sessions, we're going to be visiting some of my favorite places on Earth, starting out in Spain, going to France, Italy, Malta, Greece, and Turkey. But don't take my word for how awesome this cruise is going to be. I'd like you to hear from some of those who went on my Alaska cruise with me last year.
Wow, it was amazing. I'd never done anything like this before, kind of had sworn off cruises.
Being with over 500 other kindred spirits, feeling so much love and so much oneness was truly a life-changing experience for me.
It was fantastic. I think the highlights were meeting Suzanne and participating in her amazing workshops where she provides us with so much information, and just the energy of the group that she engendered and brought together was wonderful to be part of.
And we went on Suzanne's Awakened Way cruise to Alaska, and it was just incredible. We had the best time.
The real highlights for me were the friends that I made, some wonderful people that I met, and so many people who have lost so much but find ways to be joyful in life. And just by being there, they teach us so much and taught me so much.
And it was amazing to meet all these like-minded people. Yes, you have an in-person, you have this amazing community, but for a week, I can't tell you how much fun it was to be with these people that were and watching Suzanne on that boat on the stage, she sparkled, and I feel like everybody just entrained to that high vibration, and it was just amazing.
Hi everyone, I had the privilege of going on Suzanne Giesemann's Awaken Way cruise to Alaska. The energy of Suzanne, the energy from my fellow Awaken Way cruisers came together to form this incredible, inspirational, over-the-moon experience.
The energy on that boat was unbelievable, and everything is uplifting.
Suzanne taught me that I am life, which stands for love and full expression, and it's my job to spread the love and the joy and the energy, not only to everyone I meet in the world, but to myself as well. It was an amazing experience. I loved it, and I'm still carrying that energy to this day, months later.
If you're ready for more details, or maybe you're ready to sign up and join us, go to my homepage, scroll down to where you see the Awaken Way banner, and click Learn More.
Are we on spot for a Mediterranean tour in 2024?
We're in, man. High five.
Bring it.
Woo!